directly to Politico. So that's the real center of power. Again, it was I think it's Gabor Mate. He's the guy. He says that it was anti-Semitism when it didn't matter what the Jews did. Well, it clearly didn't matter what the Muslims did either. I mean, it just was like very like they capitulate to sanctions, and then aha, it worked, we got to do more sanctions, and then they don't capitulate to sanctions and they dig in their heels, and either they need more or there's something wrong with them. And if they make it, freaking Gaddafi, as soon as he made a deal, he was raped to death with a machete. And they get blamed for rejectionism, but it's because the deals that are given to them by the United States are the same ones that are crafted in Israel. They started complaining about getting the same freaking documents 2 times. It's like, what the hell, is your printer broken? But I think it's very apparent because of just the insane uh, continuity of the way the U.S. foreign policy works, totally independent of what anyone really does. So like the Iranians, even when they kind of supported the U.S. in the Bosnia thing, I'm pretty sure the U.S. when hey Iran, give money to give some of your weapons to these Bosnians, they would really appreciate it. And then they go, aha, Iran gave money to the Bosnians. So, and then it works the same way with the Palestinians, because even the really nonviolent first Intifada is called violent, even when compared to the second one. In fact, they just mash the two together. And they whenever they protest, they it doesn't matter. They get shot. Whenever they boycott, no, you can't do that because Nazis did that. So again, this is something you could get into very easily, but if there's a direct line between Reaganite foreign policy to today's foreign policy, then I don't see a conceivable reality in which they're actually changing to reflect the actions of others. And again with the exterminationist rhetoric, both Clintons said that there's Muslims who corroborate with us, and then and they're good and they can stay, but then the ones they cooperate with later get branded, used as justifications to go against the people that they're really after. So they're not actually doing any favors by putting them on the payroll. Even that the Pulse nightclub shooter, his dad was working for the FBI. He was a security guard for one of these companies. I mean, the only real thing is just how they deal with their opposition. Like when the right came out against the neoconservative movement, largely through people like Ron Paul and Pat Buchanan. Pat Buchanan gets called the anti-Semite. So one guy, he says, "Oh, there's people trying to distinguish between country club anti-Semitism and naked anti-Israelism and genocidal indifference." Genocidal indifference, which basically flips this whole idea of like, not bombing people is the wrong thing. And then you get this take from David Brooks, and holy hell, I met him in person, but he's pretty much what you expect. But he says, "Oh, now I get a steady stream of anti-Semitic screeds in my email, my voicemail, and in my mailbox. Anti-Semitism is alive and thriving. It's an epicenter that is no longer on the Buchanan right, but on the peace movement left." Which, it's the same shit you see today. It's same shit, different assholes. So, and here's a really great one. CNN should take Pat Buchanan off the air, and major newspapers should stop running him for the same reason they would not give a TV show to Meyer Kahane or Louis Farrakhan. Pat Buchanan is every bit as much a bigot. You know who that was? That was Alan Dershowitz, also tied to Epstein. But, they blocked out Ron Paul. They attacked him for trying to court the truthers, something that they've suppressed as a part of trying to I guess maintain control of their credibility, their non-existent credibility. And so, but the Clintons, they also attacked the left. There was this great, and by great I mean so bad it's good piece by the left betraying the Iraqi people by opposing the war because they wouldn't side with the 20 Iraqi exiles they signed in the AstroTurf war against Iraq. And he goes, "Oh, it's they've been so content to denounce that they think nothing of what they damage, the idea of freedom itself." And then you get even Chelsea Clinton, which again that helps me from getting too off track, was basically confronted a anti-war rally in Oxford. Um, when all these newspapers were trying to pressure Tony Blair into supporting the Iraq War, and then the pressure from the other side, it comes from the other side. How dare they? They Hillary Clinton comes out and she hangs an American Chelsea Clinton, sorry, hangs an American flag with this group of Americans, and they call out, "How do you catch Osama then?" This is in 2002, but she's promoting the kind of Iraq link, and then she says, "I bristle at the suggestions that anyone believes that America would enter into a conflict capriciously. Boggles my mind, and the notion that America is acting without regard to the Afghan people is offensive." Oh, God, these neolibs, these fucking people. But the dissent on these issues, it also became attacked by the kind of "how dare you" arm of the media. David Cameron, he does a speech on this subject that says, "Oh, those British Muslims, they believe that 9/11 was a Jewish plot and the 7/7 attacks were staged. These ideas are connected to extremism." And so you got this shit in 2014. That's like a good 5 years before people on the internet started whining about, oh, they're connecting conspiracies to extremism. They've been doing that shit to Muslims for years. That's why you need to fucking pay attention. But so he continues, the difficult task of fighting 9/11 revisionism thus falls to Washington, which must view the pervasiveness of such 9/11 Arab conspiracy theories as a fundamental challenge to the legitimacy of the ongoing fight against terrorism. The more deeply that 9/11 revisionism becomes ingrained in the Arabs' view of history, the harder that will be to advance policies for preventing another attack. They show their hand right there. Again, once the problem isn't that there isn't the information, it's there, but you gotta be there to watch when people show their hand like that. And so this even applies to Saudi Arabians. Like it basically, according to NBC, sabotaged this $10 million Saudi public relations campaign in 2002 when an interior minister said that it was impossible that 19 youths carried out the operation. And then you get the ADL attacking Hezbollah, circulating these conspiracy theories in 2006. And they go, what to do about this trend? The best solution would be for these moderate Muslims to stand up against it. Until then, Israel must be strong, and the West needs to recognize that the attack on the Jew is just one part of an attack on all of us and our way of life. And so the Clintons, they basically legitimize all of it. You get that one video of Bill shouting down that one guy, "How dare you?" Kerry, who I think they backed, takes, calls 6,000 people dead in Yemen significant progress, and these people clutch their pearls at Trump. they, they also, fuck, cutting that like an emo boy. They Shit. Oh yeah, they had that kid tased for like talking shit about Carrie being in Skull and Bones, which is this fraternity that does all this fucked up shit that all these powerful people are in. Because if you're in a fraternity with powerful people and you do fucked up shit, you're bonded together because no one else can, no one in that circle can talk about you fucking a corpse or whatever the fuck. And and obviously, in some sense, yes, you would be compromised. Um, but they all prop up the same rhetoric, and there's this piece that's just it's in 2005. 9/11 was good for the Muslim world. This liberal Muslim woman says, and she says Osama bin Laden and company did the Muslim world a favor. They shook it free of defensiveness and denial that for decades had overshadowed an essential conversation about our religion and what had become of it. Proving the existence of bin Laden was Fawad's way of holding up a mirror to the Muslim world to make it see what it refused to acknowledge for too long. He initially had gone to Iran to see the effects of political Islam on that country and got first-hand accounts from Iranians and Afghans that he met at the refugee camp. So 9/11 was good for the Muslim world. And they act surprised that Muslims don't embrace liberalism, which is something that these neolibs, are kept saying would happen. And when it didn't happen because they weren't trying to do that shit, they were surprised that there was a white wing backlash. So, yeah, no, fuck that. Fuck these people. But, that's